Hey everyone, tonight we're going to step straight into Edo-period Japan, and let me warn you right now, this is not the place for a cozy tourist stroll. Imagine waking up on a rough straw mat, the air thick with the smell of rice gruel cooking in a pot, mixed with the less pleasant perfume of horse dung outside in the narrow street. The sounds hit you next. Wooden clogs clacking on stone, the creak of a cart, a vendor yelling about fresh fish, and the faint rustle of kimonos brushing past each other. It's morning in 17th century Japan, and you, unshaven, underdressed, and utterly confused, are about to find out how short your lifespan here is going to be. You probably won't survive this. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And hey, post your location and your local time in the comments. I love seeing where everyone's listening from. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some soft background music, and let's get started tonight. The first mistake you make is opening your mouth. You try to say something, anything in English, maybe even a hesitant hello, and the crowd reacts like you just coughed up a frog. People give you side-eye, muttering words you can't catch, their tones clipped and sharp. You don't need a dictionary to know they're not thrilled. You're a foreigner in a closed society, and the year is roughly 1650, when Japan's Tokugawa shogunate has locked the gates to outsiders. Sure, a few Dutch merchants are tolerated on a little artificial island called Dejima in Nagasaki, but you're out in the open, in Edo, where the shogun himself keeps the capital running tighter than a sushi roll. Here's a quirky bit. Edo was one of the largest cities in the world at this time. Over 1 million people packed into wooden houses along canals and markets. Historians are still debating whether the sheer size of Edo was more impressive than London's, or whether its fire hazards made it a glorified tinderbox waiting for disaster. Either way, you're in the thick of it, and the smell alone tells you it's crowded. You shuffle toward the main street, and immediately a horse cart nearly clips you. The driver doesn't shout, "Watch out!" He just scowls, because in this rigidly polite culture the foreigner is automatically at fault. You're already sweating and it's not even mid-morning. The sun filters through the paper walls of the houses, throwing soft rectangles of light onto the dirt road, but for you it feels like a spotlight. Everyone sees the outsider, and everyone's curious about how long you'll last. A group of children follows you, giggling at your hair, your clothes, your weird shoes. One brave kid mimics your walk, stomping exaggeratedly until his mother yanks him back with a scolding. You feel the stares prick your skin like needles. Even your heartbeat is out of place here. Too loud, too obvious. You remember crocodile poop's sunscreen in Egypt? Yeah, same vibe. You don't belong and you stand out in the worst way. The language barrier is already crushing you, but the social barrier is worse. You try to step into a shop curious about the wooden masks hanging by the door. Immediately the shopkeeper's hand shoots out like a sword, blocking your path. "Dame," he says, "no, you're not welcome. In this society, everything runs on reputation and community trust. You have neither. Without clan, without status, you're less than a stray dog. At least the stray dog might get tossed a bone. By noon, you're thirsty, starving, and confused. You follow your nose to a street vendor steaming rice balls, but the moment you reach out, the vendor demands payment in Koban coins. You've got nothing but lint in your pockets, and bartering in English earns you more scowls. Rice isn't just food here, it's currency. Lords are taxed in rice, samurai are paid in rice, and peasants owe rice to everyone above them. Without it, you're broke. Think of it like walking into New York with no cash, no credit, and your phone battery at 2%. Then the samurai arrive. You hear them before you see them. The clink of armour, the purposeful stomp of getter sandals, the hush that falls over the crowd. 2 men in silk robes and swords at their hips pass by, and suddenly the air feels thinner. Samurai aren't just soldiers, they're the ruling class, the enforcers of order. Accidentally brush against them, and you could be dead before you finish saying, oops. Your brain screams, don't look at them, don't make eye contact. You fail. One of them pauses, scanning you like a cat deciding whether to pounce. For a second you're sure this is it, but then he snorts, mutters something about Nanban, barbarian, and walks on. Your knees nearly give out with relief. The irony is the samurai barely notice you beyond your foreignness. But the peasants, they notice every move. They see you as disruption. You can feel the silent calculation in their eyes. If you cause trouble, they'll be punished for harbouring you. And in a world where collective responsibility rules, that means they'd rather see you gone before you get them into trouble. By evening, the streets start to clear. The curfew is strict. Fires are common and the city patrols enforce order at night. You don't know this yet, so you wander, clueless, while shutters bang closed and lanterns flicker out. The last light fades, and suddenly you're standing in a narrow alley, alone with no idea where to go. The paper walls around you whisper with the movement of families settling down for the night. You hear a baby cry, the shuffle of straw bedding, the faint hiss of an oil lamp being extinguished. And then silence. Thick, pressing silence. Your stomach growls, but there's nothing you can do. You sit down on the cold dirt, hugging your knees, the chill creeping in as the night deepens. Somewhere in the distance a bell tolls, marking the hour. You realize you're not going to sleep. Not comfortably, not safely. Your body aches from tension. Your mind races with every creak of wood. And the worst part? You've only survived your first day because sheer dumb luck spared you. Tomorrow, that luck might run out. The morning doesn't greet you kindly, it ambushes you. The sound of a gong rattles your bones before the sun has even finished climbing. Edo wakes up early, and you're already behind. Your eyes feel like sandpaper. Your back aches from curling on the cold ground, and your stomach is hollow enough to echo. You barely register the crisp air before another reality slams into you. People are staring again. The whispers spread faster than smoke. A foreigner sleeping outside? That's not just strange, that's suspicious. Edo's social system doesn't like outliers, and you're about as outlier as a neon sign in the middle of a temple. Kids gawk from behind their mothers' robes, merchants frown, and then, just when you think you might sneak away, a shadow falls across you. Two samurai stand there. This is the nightmare scenario you hope to avoid. Their hair is tied in top knots, their robes neat, their swords gleaming like they're hungry. The one on the left tilts his head just slightly, and it feels like he's already judged your worth. None. You freeze. Do you bow? Wave? Pretend you're invisible? You panic bow, bending at the waist like I'm a functioning robot. The samurai don't bow back. Instead, the taller one steps closer, eyes scanning your face as if your existence alone is an insult. Nanban, he mutters again. That word you heard yesterday. Barbarian. Outsider. Basically, we don't like you. Here's the deal. In Edo Japan, samurai aren't just swords for hire, they're walking power. The Tokugawa shogunate set them up as enforcers of peace, but peace comes with rules. One wrong move, one disrespectful glance, and a samurai is legally allowed to cut you down. It's called Kirasute Gomen, the right to kill anyone who offends their honour. Historians are still debating whether this law was often used or just a terrifying threat, but from where you're standing it doesn't matter. The hand on that katana hilt looks steady enough. And you're trembling like a leaf. The shorter samurai circles you once, like a hawk deciding if the rabbit is worth the strike. Finally he grunts and waves you away. But the message is clear. You're still alive only because you're not worth dirtying the blade on. Your knees nearly give out again, but you force yourself to shuffle off, every muscle tense. By the time you reach the main road, your nerves are shot. The city is buzzing now, vendors calling, couriers rushing, the clack of getter sandals forming a chaotic rhythm. But you can't blend in. People part around you as though you're carrying a contagious disease. You catch sight of a group of farmers leading rice bales on ox carts. One glares openly, another spits at the ground near your feet. Welcome to Japan's social hierarchy, where even peasants feel higher than the random foreigner with no clan, no master, no place. And then comes the real gut punch. Samurai eyes are everywhere. You think you've escaped, but every block, another pair of watchful stares cuts through you. Their silence is worse than shouting. You remember how, back home, a cop car in your rear view makes your stomach sink? Multiply that by 10 and give the cop a sword he's legally allowed to use on your spine. That's your every step now. Your hunger claws louder, but the market stalls are dangerous zones. You linger near one where skewers of grilled fish hiss and crackle over an open flame. The smell is heavenly, almost enough to make you forget your situation. Almost. The stall owner notices your drooling face and slaps his hand on the counter. No rice, no food, he snaps. He doesn't bother hiding his disdain. You shuffle away, stomach growling like thunder. A thought creeps into your mind. Maybe you should follow the samurai. Maybe blending into their orbit is safer than standing alone. Terrible idea. But hunger and fear make terrible advisors. You drift closer to one patrol, keeping just behind them like a lost puppy. It works. For about 2 minutes. Then the taller one halts, pivots, and locks eyes with you. His hand rests on the sword hilt again. Your brain screams, run, but your legs stay rooted, stiff as bamboo. The moment stretches too long until finally he exhales, mutters another nanban, and dismisses you with a flick of his sleeve. This time, though, the crowd laughs. Not kindly, your comic relief. The bumbling outsider who almost got sliced for being clingy. And you realise something crucial. The samurai don't need to kill you to ruin you. Their presence alone makes you a target. Every glare from them signals to the crowd that you're unwelcome, unsafe, untouchable. It's like a spotlight burning your skin while you're on stage, and the audience is rooting for you to trip. By late afternoon, your nerves are so frayed you can barely think. Every corner feels like a trap, every glance a test you're doomed to fail. You slump against a wooden post, sweat dripping down your back, and the bitter truth hits you. In Edo Japan, survival isn't just about food or shelter. It's about respect, rank, and rules you'll never understand. And with samurai eyes on you at every step, one slip of your tongue, one wrong bow, one twitch too fast, and you won't be around to see another sunrise. You think you've made it through the worst part. You didn't get chopped in half by a samurai blade. You haven't starved yet, and somehow you're still standing. But here's where Edo Japan really tightens the noose. The social hierarchy. It doesn't matter if you got charm, quick wit, or even a killer TikTok following back in your time. None of that means a thing here. Japan runs on a system called shinokosho. Samurai, farmers, artisans, merchants, each stacked neatly on top of the other like a rigid Jenga tower. And you don't even make it into the tower. You're like the random dust on the floor that no one claims. The system works like this. Samurai rule with authority, peasants work the land, and technically outrank the merchants because rice equals life. Artisans create beauty with their hands, and merchants, well, merchants are basically walking wallets. They're technically bottom rung, but they often end up richer than everyone else, which makes the whole thing awkward. Historians are still debating whether merchants' wealth actually threatened the balance of this hierarchy, or whether society just politely ignored the fact that the lowest class often had the nicest houses. Either way, your problem is simpler. You don't belong anywhere in it. The first sign of trouble comes when you try to sit near a group of peasants on the roadside. They're taking a short break. chewing on pickled vegetables, laughing about something in a rough country dialect. You smile, maybe wave, and bam, the laughter dies. Silence. The oldest man, his face lined with years of sun and mud, squints at you. "Nan ban," he mutters, then spits into the dirt. The others shift away as though you're contagious. Your cheeks burn and you shuffle off. Here's the thing. In Edo Japan, everyone's behavior reflects on their whole group. Family, village, or guild. You have no group, which means you're a risk. Helping you could drag them down, so it's easier to push you out. Even peasants who spend their lives ankle-deep in mud see themselves above you. And yes, that stings. By mid-morning, you wander into the bustle of a market district. Stalls overflow with lacquered bowls, paper lanterns, woven sandals, and bundles of rice straw. The air hums with chatter, but the moment you step in, it's like the sound dips. You're that guy who walked into a karaoke bar halfway through a ballad and yelled, "What's up, everybody, awa?" at the wrong moment. Heads turn, stares stick, and whispers crawl like bugs in your ears. You approach a merchant selling finely painted fans. The fans are delicate, shimmering in the sunlight, decorated with cranes and pine trees. You reach out and instantly the merchant slaps your hand away. "Don't touch," he snaps in Japanese, then adds a word you don't know but don't need to. It drips with contempt. You stammer something, maybe even offer a pleading smile, but it doesn't matter. Merchants survive by keeping reputation spotless. Being seen dealing with you? Instant gossip. Bad for business. You back away, bumping into someone carrying a tray of steaming soba noodles. The noodles wobble, nearly spill, and the vendor erupts with a string of words sharp enough to flay your ears. You bow awkwardly, trying to apologize, but it only makes things worse. Bow too shallow, and you're arrogant. Bow too deep, and you look ridiculous. Either way, you lose. And just when you think humiliation is the worst of it, you stumble into a checkpoint. Yes, Edo has checkpoints, a key show, where guards monitor who goes in and out of districts. One glance at you, and the guards stiffen. You don't have papers, you don't have clan backing, and you sure don't have an excuse. They grill you in Japanese, voices stern, faces unreadable. You answer in English, your voice cracking, and they look at you like you're speaking in chicken clucks. One guard finally waves you away, probably deciding you're more trouble to process than to ignore. But the message lands heavy. You don't belong, and the system will never let you in. Your stomach twists with hunger again, but your pride twists harder. Everywhere you go, you're reminded you're below even the lowest rung, and as you shuffle through the crowd, heads ducking, eyes darting, you realize the scariest part. The people don't even want you to survive. They want you gone. Your stomach has been staging a protest all day, and it's not subtle. Every few minutes it growls loud enough to earn fresh side eyes from the crowd. You'd think hunger is a universal language, but in Edo-period Japan it just brands you more clearly as a useless outsider. Rice isn't just food here, it's currency, pride, even politics, and you're about to find out how serious that is. You drift into a quieter district, hoping to escape the stares, but instead you stumble straight into a scene of daily survival. Peasants unloading sacks of rice into a storehouse. The air smells faintly sweet, grains spilling through their fingers like sand as they measure and sort. You stop, mesmerized. Rice doesn't look like much back home, just something in a plastic bag at the supermarket, but here, each grain is practically glowing with importance. A stern man in a plain cotton kimono notices you watching. His face is worn, his arms corded with years of lifting, and his expression says he already dislikes you. "Comb," he says, pointing at the rice. You nod dumbly like you understand. He frowns deeper, mutters something about taxes, then waves you off like a bothersome fly. Here's the historical truth. During the Tokugawa shogunate, rice wasn't just dinner, it was the backbone of the economy. Daimyo lords were assessed based on kokudaka, the amount of rice their land could produce. One koku was about enough to feed a person for a year, and the more koku, the more power. Samurai weren't handed coins, they were paid in rice stipends. Even government budgets were measured in rice. Historians are still debating whether this rice as currency system kept Japan stable or trapped it in feudal rigidity. But for you, the conclusion is simpler. No rice means no survival. You try to sneak closer to the storehouse, maybe beg or mime hunger. Wrong move. 2 men block your path, bamboo poles in hand, eyes narrowed. To them, this isn't just about charity. It's about property, taxes, and their lord's authority. One wrong impression, and you could be accused of theft. In Edo, Japan, theft of rice isn't a slap on the wrist offence, it's a death sentence. Your stomach clenches tighter as you back away, cheeks hot, humiliation raw. You drift to a small vendor stall where steamed rice balls are wrapped in seaweed, the aroma heavenly. You point, smile hopefully. The vendor holds up 2 fingers, payment required. You pat your pockets, offering the international sign of broke tourist. The vendor laughs, loud, cruel, like you're the punchline to a joke everyone gets but you. The rice ball gets snatched back, and you're left with nothing but shame and the faint smell of food you'll never taste. The deeper irony gnaws at you. Merchants, technically the lowest in social ranking, control much of the rice trade. They're despised by samurai and peasants alike, but everyone needs them. It's like they're the bankers of Edo, disliked, distrusted, yet indispensable. And you? You can't even get in the door. By late afternoon, your head spins. Hunger mixes with the heat of the sun, the weight of stairs, and the constant drone of voices you can't understand. You stumble past a shrine, its stone lanterns mossy and its incense curling into the air. You pause, partly out of desperation. Maybe a prayer will work where begging failed. You bow awkwardly, clap your hands like you've seen locals do and whisper, "Please, just one bowl of rice." The priest notices you. He frowns, not cruelly but with confusion. To him you're not a pilgrim, not a parishioner, not even part of this world. He offers no rice, only a shake of the head, and you shuffle off again, weaker than before. Night approaches, and you realise you've gone a full day with nothing but fear and humiliation in your belly. In a society where rice is power, status and survival, you are a 0. You don't even rank as human in the ledger of Edo. And as you curl up under dark eve listening to the faint rustle of rats searching for stray grains, the truth hits harder than your hunger. You can't survive in a land where food itself is wealth, and you're the poorest man alive. You wake the next morning with a pounding headache and the stale taste of dust on your tongue. Your body aches from curling up under that eve, and your clothes smell like damp straw and desperation. You stumble into the sunlight trying to shake the fog, but the moment you take your first step into a neighbourhood lane, you commit a cultural crime. You forgot to take off your shoes. See, in Edo-period Japan, shoes, especially the dirt-caked, mud-smeared, foreign-looking things you're wearing, do not belong inside. Not in houses, not in inns, not in temples, not anywhere beyond the threshold. Floors aren't just wood or tatami mats, they're sacred spaces meant to stay clean, and stepping on them with outside shoes is the social equivalent of spitting on someone's family shrine. You don't even realise your mistake until a woman shrieks. She drops her basket of daikon radishes, eyes wide in horror as you clomp across a polished wooden floor into what you thought was a shop. Within seconds, 3 more people rush over, waving their arms, shouting in rapid-fire Japanese. One points at your shoes, another at the floor, and suddenly you understand. You've just become the barbarian who smeared filth all over their sacred space. Here's a quirky fact. In Japanese homes, there's a space called a genkan, A little step where you remove your footwear before entering. Even sandals or strawgata come off. People walk barefoot or in socks indoors, and sometimes slip into soft house slippers. Historians are still debating whether this custom began strictly from Shinto concepts of purity or from practical needs to keep delicate tatami mats clean. Either way, your ignorance earns you a barrage of angry glares. You panic. You bend down, fumbling to yank off your shoes, but it's too late. The damage is done. The shopkeeper rushes over with a cloth, scrubbing furiously at the wood, as though you've stomped in something far worse than mud. Other customers murmur behind their sleeves, eyes darting at you like you're some kind of disease. You try to bow, again, the awkward half-robot kind, but it only makes things worse. Bowing is an art form here. Too shallow, and it's dismissive. Too deep, and it looks sarcastic. Your crooked attempt earns a chorus of mutters. The words aren't clear, but the tone is. You've just proven, once again, that you don't belong. Hunger drives you further down the street, but now you're paranoid. You hesitate at every doorway, staring at the raised thresholds, trying to guess whether shoes are okay or not. Spoiler, they're never okay. And the crowd notices your hesitation, which only makes you look stranger. You pause near an inn, peering inside. A group of travellers kneel neatly on tatami mats, sipping tea with straight backs and calm hands. Their sandals rest neatly at the Genkan step. The sight is so orderly, so peaceful, that for a moment you ache to belong, to sit, to rest, to pretend you're part of this world. But the innkeeper sees you. His eyes narrow at your filthy shoes, your foreign face, your hesitating posture. He shakes his head before you even step forward. Dame. Not allowed, not here. You slink away, cheeks burning, feet suddenly heavy. Even your shoes feel like evidence of your foreignness. The clump of your soles on the dirt road draws attention, every step announcing outsider, outsider, outsider. By midday you've developed a nervous tic. You keep glancing down at your shoes, half expecting someone to scream at you again. You shuffle into an alley, sit on a stone and tug them off, cradling them in your arms. Barefoot the ground feels rough, but at least you blend in a little more, until someone notices your pale, uncallous soles and laughs. The irony is thick. In a world built on rigid etiquette, even the act of taking off your shoes can't save you. You're trapped between ignorance and imitation, each mistake digging the hole deeper. And as the sun dips lower, you realise something unsettling. Back home, shoes are just accessories. Here they're symbols of respect, cleanliness and belonging. And you've turned them into yet another reminder that no matter how carefully you step, you'll never walk correctly in this world. Your hunger finally bullies you into desperation. By now your ribs feel like they're poking holes in your skin, and the dizziness makes the streets wobble under your feet. When the smell of steaming cedarwood and mineral-rich water drifts down an alley, you stumble toward it like a moth to a lantern. You don't know it yet, but you've just wandered into one of Edo's most sacred and social spaces, the public bathhouse, or sento. At first it seems promising. The entrance is warm, lit with soft lantern glow, and the sound of splashing water echoes from behind a wooden wall. You hear laughter too, deep rolling laughter that sounds more welcoming than any voice you've heard in days. You think maybe, just maybe, you found a place where you can rest, even wash away the grime clinging to your skin. Wrong. You push the sliding door open, and the first thing that hits you is steam. It's thick, humid, carrying the smell of wet wood and faint herbs. The second thing that hits you? Nakedness. Everywhere. Men lounging on stools, scrubbing their backs with ladles of hot water. Boys cannonballing into shallow pools. Old men soaking with faces blissed out like they're halfway to nirvana. You freeze in the doorway, still fully dressed, your eyes bulging like a cartoon character who just walked into the wrong scene. Everyone turns to look at you, And then the laughter starts. Not cruel, but sharp. You've clearly announced, "I have no idea how this works." See, in Edo Japan, the sento isn't just hygiene, it's community. Homes don't usually have private baths, so neighbours gather here daily. People scrub each other's backs, swap gossip and soak away aches. Bathing isn't optional, it's culture. And the rules, they're ironclad. You wash first, scrub thoroughly, and only then do you step into the communal tub. If you mess this up, you don't just look foolish, you look offensive. You shuffle awkwardly to the side, peeling off your grimy clothes, your skin prickling with exposure. The stares intensify. Your body is strange, pale in some places, scarred in others. Your chest hair a fuzzy shock to men who are mostly smooth. You try to mimic what you see. Grab a bucket, pour water over your head, scrub with your hands, but you fumble the order, spilling half the water on the floor. A boy bursts into laughter, pointing at you, and his father quickly hushes him. But the grin on the man's face says he's laughing too. You attempt to play it cool, settling into the tub, but you don't realise until too late. You didn't rinse properly. A woman on the other side of the partition shouts something sharp. Heads turn again. You've broken etiquette. Here's a quirky fact. Edo bathhouses were often mixed gender until the late 19th century, something that shocks modern sensibilities. Historians are still debating whether this openness reflected pure practicality, religious purity customs, or just a society less anxious about nudity. Either way, for you, it's one more layer of discomfort. The fact that you're sitting half submerged, naked, and still visibly not from here is a cocktail of embarrassment so strong it could be bottled and sold. The water, at least, is glorious. Hot, soothing, seeping into your aching muscles. For a brief moment you sigh, letting yourself relax. And then, just as you're drifting toward comfort, someone points directly at you. The laughter halts. A hush falls. You follow their finger and realise your clothes are gone. The bundle you left by the wall has vanished. Whether stolen, hidden as a prank, or accidentally kicked into a bucket of mop water, you don't know. But the result is the same. You're naked, dripping and about to leave with nothing. Panic thrums in your veins. You scramble out, water splashing, ignoring the rules again. The attendants scold, voices sharp, but you don't understand the words, only the tone. You clutch a ragged towel, heart pounding, face burning. Somehow you make it out into the street, barefoot and half covered, steam still rising from your skin. And as the cool night air hits your damp body, the absurdity sinks in. You thought you'd wash away your outsider status. Instead, you just scrubbed it raw and left it shining for all of Edo to see. You're still damp from the bathhouse disaster when hunger drives you into yet another trap. This time, it looks beautiful, almost magical. A sliding door opens into a quiet garden, lanterns glowing softly against paper walls, where people kneel in perfect silence around a low table. The air smells faintly of roasted green tea and fresh tatami. Someone gestures politely toward you. Against all logic, you step inside. You've just walked into a tea ceremony, and you are not ready. At first glance, it seems simple. People drink tea, right? Wrong? This is Chanoyu, the Japanese tea ceremony, and it's not about caffeine. It's about harmony, respect, and centuries of perfected etiquette. Every gesture is rehearsed, every pause deliberate. And you're a clumsy outsider with zero idea how to hold a teacup, let alone sip from it without offending an entire culture. The host, a serene man in a spotless kimono, kneels with movements so fluid they look choreographed. He folds a silk cloth with exacting care, wipes the tea scoop and sets down each utensil like it's sacred. Guests bow in unison, bodies folding like reeds in the wind. You try to follow, but your knees crack loudly, and you bow too slow, too low, too wrong. The woman next to you side-eyes so hard it nearly singes your hair. Then comes the tea itself. The host whisks powdered green matcha into a frothy emerald liquid, then rotates the bowl precisely before offering it to you. This isn't a Starbucks grande latte. You're supposed to admire the bowl, bow, rotate it again, sip exactly 3 times, and wipe the rim. Easy if you know the dance. Impossible if you don't. You grab the bowl with both hands, so far so good, but then you slurp too loud like you're downing ramen broth. The sound echoes in the quiet room. Heads turn. The host's face remains calm, but the silence around you sharpens like a blade. You panic, rotate the bowl the wrong direction, nearly spill tea on your lap and laugh nervously. Huge mistake. See, laughter here doesn't break tension, it creates it. In a setting built on poise, your chuckle sounds like an alarm bell. The woman next to you stiffens. Another guest coughs deliberately, the universal "get it together" sign. Here's the historical twist. Tea ceremonies were more than social events, they were political arenas. Daimyo lords used them to demonstrate refinement, power, and alliances. Historians are still debating whether tea culture was a genuine spiritual pursuit or a carefully staged performance of authority. Either way, for you, it's a minefield. Slip once and you look not just ignorant but barbaric. You fumble through the motions, cheeks hot, palms sweating. By the time you pass the bowl back, you're trembling. The host bows gracefully, masking any insult, but the room's energy tells you everything. You've failed, spectacularly. When the ceremony ends, guests rise with silent dignity. You try to stand too quickly, bang your knee on the low table, and hiss in pain. A few muffled laughs ripple. Finally, not at your joke, but at your clumsiness. You're the evening's entertainment, though not in the way you wanted. You stagger outside, the night air cool against your burning skin. The lanterns sway gently, shadows dancing across the garden stones. For a fleeting moment you think of home, grabbing a tea bag, tossing it in boiling water, sipping without anyone judging your wrist angle. Here, though, tea is art and you've just spray-painted graffiti over a masterpiece, and as you walk back into Edo's crowded streets, one truth sinks deeper than your hunger. In this world, even drinking tea is a test, and you've already failed the exam. You shuffle back into Edo's streets after the tea ceremony fiasco, thinking maybe the worst is behind you. Nope. The city itself is about to teach you a brutal lesson. You thought night would give you cover, let you blend into the shadows. But in Edo, Japan, nightfall isn't freedom, it's lockdown. The sun dips low, and the bustling marketplace slows like someone just cut the power. Stalls fold up, lanterns get snuffed out, shutters slam shut. Within minutes, the lively chaos of Edo transforms into a ghost town. You're left standing in the street, confused, while the last shopkeeper mutters something sharp and yanks his door closed. You hear the wooden bar thud into place, and suddenly it's just you and the creeping dark. Here's the thing. Edo operated under strict curfews. The shogunate feared fire, crime, and rebellion, so once night fell, the city belonged to the patrols. Gates to districts closed, bridges were guarded, and anyone caught wandering risked questioning or worse. Historians are still debating whether curfews were more about safety or sheer control, but either way, for you, the result is the same. You're trapped outside like a stray cat. You try to play it cool, sitting on a stone step, but the silence feels wrong. No clatter of sandals, no chatter, just the distant boom of a temple bell marking the hour. Then comes the shuffle of straw sandals and the faint rattle of weapons. Torches flicker at the end of the street. The patrol, they're not samurai, but they carry authority. Edo's fire brigades and night watchmen were tasked with keeping order, and they took curfew seriously. They march in a line, voices low but stern, scanning the shadows. You panic bow as they pass, hoping they'll ignore you. Instead, one stops, holding the torch close enough to light your pale, sweaty face. The questions come fast in Japanese you can't understand. You stammer in English, maybe throw in a konnichiwa, and their suspicion sharpens. To them, you're a stranger wandering after hours. That makes you trouble. The leader gestures sharply, pointing toward the nearest gate. You get the message. Leave, now. But the gate is closed, locked. You try to mime sleeping outside, curling your hands under your head. The patrolman's scowl deepens. He steps closer, hand resting on a wooden baton. For a terrifying moment, you think he's going to arrest you. And in Edo Japan, arrest doesn't mean paperwork and bail. It means being dragged before a magistrate, questioned with no translator, and possibly executed for breaking rules you didn't even know existed. The silence stretches, your heartbeat pounding in your ears. Then, mercifully, the leader spits into the dirt and waves you off with a grunt. You bow repeatedly, backing away like a terrified crab. The patrol moves on, their torches fading into the dark. You're alone again, but the lesson is burned into you. Night isn't yours. Edo belongs to the shogun. Even after sundown, you try to curl up in an alley, shivering against the chill, listening to every creak and rustle like it's a death sentence. And just when you start to drift into a half-sleep, a distant scream splits the air. High, sharp, then cut off. You jerk upright, every nerve screaming. You'll never know if it was a drunk, a thief, or something worse. But you do know one thing. You're not safe here. Not in the dark, not under curfew, not anywhere in this city. You wake the next morning with your back bent like a question mark and your dignity in tatters. You've made it through curfew without being hauled off. But now nature comes calling. And here's where Edo delivers another gut punch. Toilets. You wander behind a row of wooden houses, hoping to find somewhere discreet. Instead, you stumble onto a communal outhouse, a squat wooden shack buzzing with flies, the air sharp with ammonia. A few locals glance at you as they pass, their expressions unreadable. You hesitate, then duck inside. Big mistake. The toilet is a hole in the ground. No seat, no paper, no privacy. Just a dark pit, polished wooden planks on either side, and the faint, stomach-churning sound of, well, Edo's recycling program. See, human waste here isn't just waste, it's fertilizer. Farmers literally buy it from the city. Historians are still debating whether this early recycling system was ingenious sustainability or just desperation. But either way, you're standing over the smell of next season's daikon crop. You crouch, wobbling like a toddler learning to squat, and it's immediately obvious you have no technique. Your balance is off, your feet slip on the damp wood, and for a horrifying second you nearly topple straight into the pit. A strangled noise escapes your throat. From outside, someone chuckles. You grit your teeth. Try again, sweat beading on your forehead as you pray for a quick finish. But the position is awkward. Your muscles protest, and the smell makes your stomach lurch. You've survived hungry nights and samurai stares, but this feels like the true breaking point. When you finally stumble out, pale and shaken, a group of children bursts into laughter. They point, giggling, mimicking your squatting posture with exaggerated wobbling. Their mother hushes them, but not before giving you a look that says, pathetic. Desperate to recover some shred of dignity, you wander toward a well, hoping to wash your hands. A woman filling buckets glares as you plunge your filthy fingers into the clean water. She yanks the bucket away, muttering something sharp about contamination. The message is clear. Even the act of cleaning yourself makes you dirtier here. Here's a quirky note. Edo was actually ahead of its time in waste management. The city was remarkably clean compared to many European cities of the same era, with organised systems for collecting night soil and strict rules about disposal. But you, the clueless foreigner, just managed to turn hygiene into humiliation. You shuffle away, hands still sticky, cheeks burning hotter than the rising sun. Every rustle of laughter behind you feels like another dagger. And as you walk barefoot along the dirt street, stomach growling, you realize something cruel. In this world, even using the bathroom is a skill you don't have. You failed at fighting, failed at eating, failed at bowing, failed at bathing, and now failed at the most basic human function. You glance around at the orderly city, the people moving in quiet rhythm, and you know the truth. Edo doesn't just want you gone. Edo wants you erased. You try to shake off the toilet fiasco, but Edo isn't about to give you a break. You sneeze, just once, loud, involuntary, and suddenly you're a walking curse. People recoil as though you've spat venom. A vendor mutters something sharp, crossing his fingers in a warding gesture. An old woman spits 3 times into her sleeve, glaring at you like you've summoned a demon. You're confused until you realize superstition here is everywhere, woven into daily life tighter than silk threads in a kimono. In your world, sneezing gets you a polite bless you. In Edo, sneezing in public can get you branded unlucky. And being unlucky in a society obsessed with balance and harmony, that's dangerous. A man whispers to his neighbor while glancing at you. The word yokai, spirit, slips through, and your stomach knots. You're not just a foreigner now, you're suspicious, a bringer of bad fortune. Here's the kicker. Edo-period Japan was a breeding ground for folklore. People swapped ghost stories like kids trade Pokemon cards. Superstitions about fox spirits, river demons, and wandering ghosts shaped daily choices. Historians are still debating whether this obsession reflected genuine belief or clever social control. But either way, sneeze at the wrong time, and you've just joined the ranks of the ominous. The stairs follow you down the street. A mother yanks her child away as you pass, muttering something about evil winds. A farmer slams his door as you approach, as if your shadow might contaminate his rice. Even the stray dogs avoid you, tails low, slipping into alleys rather than crossing your path. You try to shrug it off, muttering to yourself that it's just bad luck. But Edo doesn't do shrug it off. Bad luck sticks to you like soot, and soon every little misstep adds fuel. You trip on a loose stone and 2 bystanders gasp, covering their mouths like you've confirmed the omen. You accidentally knock over a bamboo ladle at a shrine, and the priest frowns so deeply you swear you feel the curse settling on your shoulders. By midday, the paranoia spreads faster than gossip in a high school cafeteria. People cross the street to avoid you. A merchant shouts at you to leave before his stall goes empty. And you start to believe it too. Every breeze feels colder, every sound sharper, every glance heavier. You're walking through a city that has quietly agreed you're the problem. Here's the quirky part. To counter bad luck, people carried charms from shrines, little pouches called omamori. They warded off everything from illness to misfortune. You don't have one. You don't even know where to buy one. All you've got is your sweaty shirt, your sore feet, and the creeping fear that the city has turned against you. The final blow comes at dusk. You sneeze again, just once, and a group of children shriek, scattering like pigeons. Their laughter echoes down the street, high-pitched and cruel until it fades into the night. You're left standing alone, cursed by nothing more than your own nose. And as darkness closes in, you realize something chilling. In Edo, bad luck isn't just superstition, it's social exile, and you've just sneezed yourself into being untouchable. By now your body is weak with hunger, but Edo decides today's menu will test your willpower more than your stomach. The smell of food drifts down the street. Savoury, smoky, rich with miso and charcoal, your legs carry you toward it like a puppet on strings. Finally, relief. You stop at a tiny stall where a woman is serving steaming bowls of broth and skewers of grilled fish. Your mouth waters. You point, miming hunger. She sighs, sets a small dish in front of you. For a moment, joy surges. You've made it. Food. Then you look closer. It's raw fish. Not sushi the way you know it. neatly sliced with a dab of wasabi. No, this is slabs of glistening flesh, chewy, shiny, slick with ocean brine. Next to it sits a pile of slimy, stringy fermented soybeans, natto. They wobble like glue, sticky strings clinging to the chopsticks. Your stomach growls, but your brain screams, no way. The woman watches expectantly. You try? You really do. You pick up the chopsticks awkwardly, your fingers fumbling like they're holding knitting needles for the first time. You lift a chunk of natto, the strands dangling like spider webs, and shove it into your mouth. It's a disaster. The beans taste pungent, bitter, funky in a way that socks left in a locker room for a month might taste. Your face contorts before you can stop it. The woman gasps. A couple of bystanders laugh. You gag, try not to spit it out. The strings cling to your lips, stretching when you pull the chopsticks away. Next, the raw fish. You pop a bite into your mouth, hoping it'll help. Nope. Your untrained stomach revolts. The texture is slippery, cold, alive in a way food shouldn't be. You chew once, twice, then choke it down, tears welling in your eyes. The crowd is watching now, grins wide, as if the foreigner's suffering is better entertainment than kabuki theatre. Here's the quirky part. While raw fish and natto are delicacies today, they were even more striking in Edo. Freshness mattered because refrigeration didn't exist, so timing and technique were everything. Historians are still debating whether natto became popular by accident, beans left to ferment too long, or whether it was embraced as a deliberate source of protein. Either way, Edo people valued it. You? You look like you've eaten poison. The woman frowns, snatches the bowl away, muttering bakananban under her breath. Stupid foreigner, she doesn't even want your money, or maybe she doesn't think you have any. Either way, you're dismissed. Again. Your stomach growls harder now, cruelly mocking you. The smell of grilled fish lingers in the air, but your throat still burns with the taste of fermented soybeans. You slump against a post, clutching your belly, humiliated and hungrier than before. By nightfall, you've learned another painful truth. Edo isn't starving you by accident. It's feeding you tests disguised as meals. And every time you fail, you tell yourself you can endure the hunger, the stares, the humiliation. But then you make the mistake of bumping into the wrong person. And in Edo Japan, the wrong person wears two swords. It happens in the marketplace. You're trying to squeeze through a crowd near a stall selling lacquer bowls. You sidestep left then right, dizzy from lack of food, and bam, you shoulder check someone solid. It's like walking into a wall wrapped in silk. You look up. The man's hand is already on his katana. He's a samurai. Time slows. The crowd around you hushes, the chatter dropping like someone cut the sound. Eyes lock on you, wide with pity or morbid curiosity. The samurai's gaze is cold, sharp, and utterly merciless. You've seen this look before. Predators sizing up prey. He steps closer. The scrape of his sandals against the dirt feels louder than thunder. His hand tightens on the hilt of his long sword. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. His silence alone announces your death sentence. You stammer in English. Sorry, I didn't mean... But the words collapse into nonsense. To him it's babbling. To everyone else, it's proof you're not from here. A couple of peasants whisper, Kirasut Gomen. The phrase chills you. It means authorization to cut down and leave. The samurai's legal right to kill anyone who insults or obstructs them. Historians are still debating whether samurai often used this right, or whether it was more deterrent than daily practice. But standing here, you know one thing. It's real enough when you're the target. You bow, deep, awkward, nearly toppling over. You hope humility will save you. Your forehead brushes the dirt. The crowd murmurs. For a long moment nothing happens. Then the samurai exhales, the faintest scoff escaping his lips. He releases the hilt, turns and walks away, silk robes swaying. Your lungs finally remember to work. You inhale shakily, every nerve screaming with leftover terror. Your legs tremble, barely able to hold you up. The crowd disperses slowly, disappointed the foreigner didn't become a bloodstain today. A child mutters something, miming a sword swing, and his friends giggle. You want to vanish. Here's the quirky fact. Samurai duels weren't random Hollywood sword fights. They were tightly bound by ritual, by notions of honor, by consequences that rippled through families and clans. But to you, none of that matters. One wrong bump, one misinterpreted glance, and your life hangs by a thread of silk thinner than spider webbing. You wander away, heart pounding, legs unsteady. Every samurai you see now is a ticking bomb, every shoulder in the crowd a potential trigger. You hug the edge of the street, flinching at every brush of fabric, every shuffle of sandals. The wooden buildings loom higher, shadows deeper, as though the city itself is closing in. By evening you collapse behind a storehouse, gasping, sweat cold on your skin. You survived. Barely. But the truth slams into you harder than hunger. In Edo Japan, you don't just risk starvation. You risk execution for existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. And as you curl against the wall, eyes darting toward every shadow, you whisper the bitter truth to yourself. You're not living here. You're dodging death one accident at a time. You wake before dawn, shivering under the storehouse eave, and you think maybe today will be quieter. No samurai, no near-death encounters, just breathing, walking, surviving. But the city has other plans. By mid-morning you're pushed into the countryside. The streets of Edo spit you out into rice fields, stretching like a green ocean under the rising sun. The air smells of wet earth and growing shoots. Cicadas scream from the trees, their chorus so loud it rattles your skull. And standing in the fields, peasants bent double, their hands and feet caked in mud. You pause on the path, watching them plant seedlings. Their movements are synchronized, rhythmic, like a slow dance. Bend, press, step back. Bend, press, step back. The mud sucks at their calves, leeches cling to their ankles. The sun scorches their backs. Yet no one complains. They just keep going. One man notices you. He squints, wipes his brow, then barks something sharp. You don't understand, but his gesture is clear. Get in here. Help. Before you can protest, another shoves a bundle of seedlings into your arms. The stalks are slick, the roots dripping mud. Your hesitation earns you more shouts. You stumble forward into the muck. It's instant misery. The mud is warm, sucking at your feet like quicksand. Your balance wobbles. You try to copy their rhythm. Bend, press, step back. But your movements are clumsy, jerky. A farmer laughs, shaking his head. Another mutters Nanban again. You're not planting rice, you're trampling it. And here's the sting. Rice fields aren't just farms, they're lifelines. Every stalk matters. Mess up and you're not just wasting time, you're threatening survival. Historians are still debating whether Japan's intense rice culture created social harmony or crushed peasants under endless taxes. But for you, bent double under the merciless sun, it's just torture. Your back cramps, your hands blister. Sweat drips into your eyes, stinging. You swat at a mosquito, lose your balance, and nearly face-plant into the muck. The peasants roar with laughter, but not kindly. To them you're useless. Worse than useless. You're a liability. By noon your body is wrecked. Your legs ache. Your skin itches from bites. Your pride is ground down like the mud between your toes. The overseer finally waves you out, disgust plain on his face. You crawl onto the path, collapsing in a heap covered in filth, rice seedlings plastered to your clothes. Here's the quirky fact. Leeches in the fields were so common peasants barely noticed them. They'd pluck them off at the end of the day like twigs. You, however, scream when you see one clinging to your ankle, writhing like a tiny vampire. The peasants laugh again, pointing, miming your terror. You rip it off, gagging, and fling it into the mud. By the time you drag yourself back toward the city, the sun is dipping. Your body aches in places you didn't know existed. You're starving, filthy, humiliated, and now you know the truth. Survival here isn't just about avoiding samurai or curfews. Even the simplest work, the work peasants have done their whole lives, crushes you in hours. And as you limp through Edo's gates, mud drying on your skin like armour you never wanted, you whisper bitterly, you couldn't even make it as a farmer. You limp back into Edo with your clothes stiff from dried mud, your belly hollow, and your pride shattered. At this point, even your shadow looks exhausted. But the city doesn't care. Edo is alive, humming with voices, clacking sandals, and the never-ending shuffle of bodies. The rhythm of it all is so fast, so precise, that you stick out more than ever. And then the next blow lands. You can't talk your way out of anything. You stop at a noodle stall, the steam curling up into the night air. The smell makes your stomach twist with longing. You point at the bowl, press your hands together in prayer, and mutter, "Please." The vendor stares unimpressed. He asks you something in Japanese, fast, clipped. You don't understand. You try again, louder. "Please, food." You mime eating, slurping, even pat your belly. The vendor frowns, mutters "baka," and waves you away. The frustration burns. Back home, gestures are enough. Point, smile, nod, and you can get what you need anywhere in the world. But here, gestures just make you look ridiculous. You're not communicating, you're performing. And the audience is laughing. You wander to a group of peasants chatting near a well. You force a smile, raise your hand and say the one word you've picked up. "Konnichiwa." "Hello?" They pause, staring. Then one bursts out laughing, not friendly laughter, mocking laughter. The others join in. One mimics your accent, stretching the word into a parody. "Konnichiwa." You feel your ears burn. See, language here isn't just words, it's identity. The way you speak marks where you're from, your rank, your education. The wrong tone can shift a sentence from polite to insulting. Historians are still debating whether rigid language hierarchies reinforce social order or simply reflected it. But in practice, it's a wall you'll never climb. You try again later, asking for water. You cup your hands, mime drinking. The man tilting his bucket just shakes his head. You try a different approach, saying "mizu," the Japanese word for water. His eyes widen slightly. Did you get it right? No. He bursts out laughing again, this time joined by two women passing by. Your pronunciation was so mangled it sounded like a joke. By mid-afternoon you're desperate. You attempt to ask directions from a patrol guard, bowing and pointing at the ground like a lost puppy. The guard doesn't even respond. He just stares, expression flat, then walks away. The rejection cuts deeper than hunger. You're not just misunderstood, you're invisible. Here's the quirky part. Some locals in Edo actually studied Dutch. On Dejima, the artificial island where foreigners were allowed to trade, a few scholars learned to bridge the gap. They called it Rangaku, Dutch learning. But you're not in Nagasaki. You're in Edo, where your babble is noise, not knowledge. The humiliation piles higher. Every attempt you make to connect, to explain, to even exist with words, collapses. The children mock your accent. The merchants dismiss your gestures. The peasants laugh in your face. By dusk you slump against a wall, head in your hands. The city hums around you, alive and impenetrable. You've survived hunger, humiliation and near death. But this is worse. Language is the bridge to belonging, and your bridge has collapsed into the river. And as the shadows lengthen, you finally admit the cruelest truth of all. In Edo, silence might keep you alive longer than your words. You've been mocked, starved, shoved, and nearly sliced in half. You've survived rice fields and botched tea ceremonies, but tonight your imagination betrays you. Because when the streets grow quiet and the shadows stretch long, Edo whispers about assassins. You first hear the word from a pair of peasants gossiping near a lantern-lit bridge. Their voices drop low, their eyes darting. One says shinobi, the other makes a stabbing motion, then laughs nervously. You don't understand the full story, but the effect is immediate. Your stomach knots. Shinobi, ninja. You know the word, and it doesn't conjure cheerful cartoon turtles. You shuffle on, but now every rustle in the dark feels like a dagger drawn. A gust rattles a bamboo fence. Your heart leaps. A cat knocks over a bucket. You nearly scream. Every shadow seems to stretch into the form of a crouched figure, mask gleaming, blade poised. Here's the thing. Edo Japan wasn't exactly crawling with ninjas on every roof. By the 1600s, their role had already shifted from legendary spies to hired muscle, and their reputation was part fact, part folklore. Historians are still debating whether ninja were feared assassins or just convenient boogeymen invented by the shogunate to keep people obedient. But in your exhausted, terrified mind, they're everywhere. You clutch your chest, glancing over your shoulder so often you stumble into a cart. The driver curses, waving you off, but you barely hear him. Your ears are tuned to every whisper, every creak. You hear sandals scrape against the stones behind you. Too soft, too steady. You speed up. The footsteps match. You break into a jog, your bare feet slapping the ground. Then, silence. You stop, chest heaving. No one's there. You laugh nervously, convincing yourself it's paranoia. And then, from the corner of your eye, a flicker. Someone on a rooftop. Or maybe it's just the wind tugging a banner. You'll never know. The fear escalates when you pass a shrine. Lanterns sway, shadows flicker, and the priest inside glances at you with something like pity. He mutters a blessing under his breath, as if you need protection. You bow clumsily, desperate for it. By midnight you're a wreck. Every alley is a trap, every rooftop a watchtower. You imagine poisoned darts in your neck, silent blades across your throat. You huddle in a corner, knees to your chest, whispering to yourself that you're fine. But your body doesn't believe it. Your heart pounds like a drum. Your breath comes in shallow gasps. Here's the quirky fact. Edo's streets actually were patrolled, not by ninjas, but by the Machi Bugyo officials and their men. They enforced order, not assassination. But the people believed in unseen dangers, and belief is contagious. Now you've caught it too. By dawn you haven't slept. Your eyes are bloodshot, your hands shake, and you know something cruel. It doesn't matter whether ninjas are real or rumour. In a world that sees you as cursed, foolish and foreign, even the whisper of assassins is enough to make your nerves shred. And as the temple bells announce morning, you realise Edo doesn't need to kill you with swords. Fear alone is enough. The paranoia from last night still clings to you like smoke. Every shadow feels heavy, every glance feels suspicious. But even fear can't hold off what's coming next. Sickness. By mid-morning your body betrays you. Your throat scratches, your head pounds, and sweat beads across your skin though the air is still cool. You shiver, then burn, then shiver again. The rice fields, the mud, the hunger, the stress, it's all caught up to you. You're sick, and Edo is the last place you want to be when your body starts to falter. You slump against a wooden post in the street, hoping to steady yourself. A woman passes, carrying herbs in a basket. You croak out a sound, maybe trying to ask for help, but she recoils. To her, you're not just a foreigner, you're a potential plague. The way she hurries off makes it clear you're on your own. Here's the thing. Edo-period medicine wasn't nothing. There were doctors, herbalists, even imported medical knowledge from the Dutch trickling in through Nagasaki. But for common people, treatment was often a mix of superstition, prayer, and trial and error remedies. Historians are still debating how effective Edo medicine really was compared to European practices of the same era. Some argue Japan's reliance on herbs and acupuncture kept mortality rates surprisingly low. Others point out the obvious. When fever hit hard, survival was luck. You drag yourself toward a small apothecary. The shelves are stacked with jars of dried roots, powders, bundles of bark. The air smells bitter, sharp, almost metallic. The apothecary, a thin man with a beard like wisps of smoke, eyes you warily. You point at your throat, cough weakly. He frowns, mutters something, and pulls down a packet of herbs. He gestures for payment. You have nothing, no rice, no coins, not even a scrap of value. You press your palms together, begging. His face hardens. With a flick of his sleeve, he waves you out. You stumble into the street, weaker than before. Desperation drives you to a shrine. Incense curls into the air, the scent both soothing and choking. You kneel clumsily, bow, clap, pray. Please, you whisper, though no one understands. The priest notices you, mutters a chant and places a small charm on the altar, but he doesn't hand it to you. That's for believers, for donors, for people who belong, not for you. The fever deepens, you sweat through your clothes, shivering even as the sun beats down. You collapse in an alley, head resting against the wooden wall. Rats scurry nearby, bold in daylight. The world tilts, colours blur. You drift in and out of half-sleep, dreams tangled with fear. One moment, you're back in the rice fields, mud sucking at your legs. The next, you're on your knees before a samurai, sword raised high. You jolt awake, chest heaving. Here's the quirky fact. Some Edo remedies included ground-up pearls, powdered deer antler, even moxibustion, burning herbs on the skin to release bad energies. You imagine some poor soul lighting a stick of incense on your fevered chest, and the absurdity almost makes you laugh. Almost. But laughter doesn't come. Only another coughing fit, deep and ragged, leaving your throat raw. By nightfall, the fever hasn't broken. You're weaker than ever, vision swimming, body aching. Edo doesn't pause for your suffering. The city moves on, merchants shouting, children laughing, priests chanting, while you lie crumpled, fading. And the cruelest truth presses in. In Edo Japan, sickness isn't just misery, it's isolation. Without clan, without money, without language, no one will risk helping you. Disease doesn't just threaten your body, it erases you from the community before you're even gone. You close your eyes, the sounds of the city muffled by fever, and you wonder, not if you'll survive, but how long it will take before Edo forgets you entirely. You don't remember falling asleep, but you wake in the same alley, your body sticky with sweat, your breath shallow. The fever hasn't broken, it's worse. Every muscle aches like it's been beaten, and your stomach growls with a hollow, endless hunger. For a moment you think maybe you'll die right here, slumped against a wall like a discarded rag. And in Edo, Japan, that wouldn't be unusual. Bodies found in the street weren't unheard of, especially among the poor. But fate has a way of dragging you further. A shout startles you awake. Someone's yelling, not in concern but accusation. You blink blearily and realize your head is resting on a sack of rice you must have leaned against in your fever haze. Bad move. Rice is sacred. Rice is survival. And to the man glaring down at you, you look like a thief. The crowd gathers quickly, because Edo loves nothing more than a public spectacle. Fingers point, voices rise, and though you don't understand the words, the tone is sharp enough. Thief, criminal, guilty. You raise your hands, shaking your head, coughing out denials in English. But it doesn't matter. You've already been judged. 2 guards push through the crowd, bamboo staffs in hand. They bark at you, demand answers. You stumble through gestures, bowing frantically, pointing at your throat to show your sickness. To them, it looks like excuses. One jabs his staff at your ribs, not hard enough to break anything, but enough to make you yelp and double over. The crowd murmurs approval. Justice is being served. Here's the terrifying truth. Punishment in Edo wasn't about fairness as you know it. It was about order, and order meant swift, visible consequences. Theft, especially of rice, wasn't just a crime against a merchant. It was an insult to the shogun himself, whose rule rested on rice taxes. Historians are still debating whether punishments were more about deterrence than actual justice, but the result is the same. Mercy is rare. You're dragged through the streets, your fevered body stumbling, your wrists bound with rough rope. Children chase, laughing, pointing at the Nanban criminal. Vendors abandon their stalls to watch. You're a parade of shame, and Edo eats it up. Finally, you're shoved into a wooden building that smells of ink, sweat, and old straw. The magistrate's office. The guards bark again, forcing you to kneel on the rough floor. Your legs cramp instantly, but you don't dare shift. The magistrate enters. A man in plain robes, his expression carved from stone. He listens as the guards relay their story, their words clipped, precise. Then he looks at you. His gaze is colder than any samurai's sword. You try to speak, but your English means nothing. You bow low, forehead pressing into the straw, hoping humility might save you. The magistrate doesn't respond. He nods once to the guards, and they haul you upright. You're dragged back outside, dizzy, your heart hammering. Punishment is coming. They march you to a small square where a wooden post stands. The crowd gathers again, buzzing with anticipation. You're forced to kneel, your hands tied behind the post. Panic surges. This is it. You're going to die in front of strangers who'll forget you by tomorrow. But fate twists again. Instead of drawing swords, the guards grab buckets. They dump freezing water over your head, soaking your fevered body. You gasp, shivering violently. The crowd laughs, satisfied with humiliation. For now, your life is spared, but the warning is clear. One more slip, one more mistake, and it won't be water. It'll be blood. They untie you, shove you into the dirt, and leave you coughing, dripping, trembling. The crowd disperses, disappointed it wasn't more dramatic. You lie there, soaked and humiliated, realizing how thin the thread of your survival really is. Here's the quirky fact. Edo punishments could be oddly theatrical. Minor crimes were met with humiliation, stocks, public beatings, dousing with water, meant to shame as much as punish. But serious crimes, execution, sometimes public, sometimes cruel. The shogunate believed fear kept order, and for you, fear is the air you breathe now. You stumble away, every step heavier. The fever chills deepen, the water soaking you, making it worse. You're coughing harder now, your chest rattling with every breath. But Edo doesn't pause for your suffering. Life moves on. Merchants shout, children play, fires are stoked, and you're just another shadow limping through the city. By nightfall you collapse again, this time under the eaves of a tea house you're not allowed to enter. The laughter inside filters out, mocking you with warmth and food you'll never taste. You curl into yourself, shivering, coughing, whispering bitter truths. Edo isn't trying to kill you quickly, it's killing you slowly. One humiliation, one fever, one punishment at a time. And you know, deep in your bones, that tomorrow won't be kinder. The next day you wake to the sound of drums, low, rhythmic, vibrating through your chest. You stumble into the street, drawn by the noise, and find yourself in the middle of a festival. Bright banners flap in the wind, drums thunder, flutes pierce the air with shrill melodies. Crowds surge, laughing, cheering, alive. For a moment you're dazzled. Colourful floats roll past, decorated with lanterns and painted scenes of gods and warriors. Performers in masks leap and spin, their costumes shimmering. Vendors shout, selling skewers of grilled eel, sweet dumplings, cups of sake. The air is electric, alive with joy. And you? You're swept up like driftwood in a flood. At first it feels almost safe. The crowd's energy is so strong you think maybe you can hide in it. You even smile as a masked dancer spins past, bells jingling. But then you realise you don't blend. Your clothes are wrong, your face too foreign, your movements too stiff. People notice. A boy tugs his father's sleeve, pointing at you. The father frowns, mutters something, pulls the boy away. A vendor refuses to sell you food, shaking his head. A drunk man staggers over, grins and shouts something mocking. The crowd laughs. You're not part of the celebration. You're the sideshow. And then the drums stop. A hush falls as a group of samurai step into the square. Their armour gleams, their swords catch the light. The crowd parts instantly, bowing low. You freeze, caught in the open. The samurai's eyes sweep the crowd, and of course they land on you. One gestures sharply. The crowd murmurs. You're dragged forward by eager hands, pushed into the clearing. The samurai looks you over. His gaze cold, then mutters a single word. Nanban. The crowd chuckles. For a terrifying moment, you think this is it, your public execution. But instead, the samurai waves you away, dismissing you like an insect. The crowd laughs louder, the humiliation sharper than any blade. You back away, cheeks burning, heart pounding, wishing you could vanish into the earth. Here's the quirky part. Festivals in Edo were paradoxical. They were moments of joy, community and chaos, but also controlled by the authorities. Samurai watch closely, making sure fun never tipped into rebellion. Historians are still debating whether festivals were true expressions of commoner joy or carefully managed outlets for tension. For you, it's neither. It's another reminder that joy here belongs to everyone but you. By night, the festival lights glow like stars. The air is thick with smoke from grilled fish and the sweet tang of sake. You watch from the shadows, stomach aching, throat raw, heart heavier than ever. You thought maybe you could lose yourself in the crowd. Instead, Edo found you, mocked you, dismissed you. And as you shuffle away, the laughter still echoing, you know the cruel truth. There's no place for you in this city. Not in work, not in silence, not even in joy. The next morning, smoke wakes you. Not the comforting kind from cooking fires, the sharp, biting kind that claws at your lungs. You stagger into the street and realise with horror the city is burning. Flames lick up wooden walls, smoke billows into the sky. People scream, rushing with buckets, throwing water desperately. Children cry, clutching their mothers. The air roars with the hungry crackle of fire, louder than drums, louder than anything you've heard. Edo is a tinderbox built of wood and paper, packed tightly with no space to breathe. Fires weren't rare. They were constant terrors, sometimes called the flowers of Edo. Beautiful to describe, deadly to endure. A man shoves a bucket into your hands, shouting. You stumble toward the line of people passing water from the well. You try to join, but your rhythm is off. Your hands clumsy. The bucket slips, spilling precious water into the dirt. Shouts rise. Someone smacks the back of your head. You grab another, try again, but your arms are weak from fever and hunger. You fall behind. The fire surges closer, heat blasting your skin. The sky glows orange, sparks raining down like burning snow. The crowd moves faster, frantic. You trip, dropping another bucket. This time the man beside you doesn't just shout. He kicks you hard, snarling words you don't understand. Here's the quirky fact. Edo's fire brigades were among the most organised in the world. Teams of firefighters called Hikeishi, trained to battle flames with coordinated effort. But to them, you're dead weight. Worse, you're dangerous. Every bucket you spill, every second you delay, risks lives. The fire roars closer. Roofs collapse, embers swirl, smoke chokes your lungs. You stumble back, coughing, tears streaming from your eyes. The line surges forward without you. You're abandoned, left to fend for yourself. You run, dodging falling beams, slipping on ash. The heat sears your skin, the smoke blinds you. You dive into an alley, pressing yourself against the ground as flames devour the houses around you. By dawn the fire is out. The city smoulders, blackened timbers jutting like broken teeth. People sift through ashes, weeping for lost homes, lost family. And you're just another shadow covered in soot, coughing, trembling, forgotten. Historians are still debating whether Edo's frequent fires shaped its resilience or simply destroyed more than they built. For you, the answer is clear. Fire has reduced what little dignity you had left to ash. You slump against a charred beam, the sky hazy with smoke, your chest burning with every breath, and you realize with brutal clarity, Edo doesn't need a samurai's sword or a ninja's blade to kill you. The city itself is enough. The morning after the fire, Edo smells like a giant ashtray. Smoke still clings to every street, the air dry and bitter, and your lungs ache with every breath. People are already rebuilding, hammering wood, sweeping debris, carrying water to douse the smouldering ruins. That's the Edo way. Destruction is constant, but so is rebuilding. You watch them work with grim amazement. Your body is too broken, too weak to join. If yesterday proved anything, it's that you're a liability here. You drift toward a shrine drawn by the steady clang of a bell. A small crowd gathers, bowing deeply as a priest waves a branch of sacred paper streamers chanting prayers. You hang back, watching. Maybe this is your chance to blend in. Just copy what they do, keep your head down, and maybe Edo will stop chewing on you for 5 minutes. The priest chant deepens, the incense thickens, and the people bow lower. You scramble to follow, clapping your hands awkwardly, bowing with your forehead nearly smacking the dirt. A few heads lift, brows furrow, you're off rhythm, you're out of sync. The harmony of the ritual fractures around your clumsy imitation. The priest glances at you. His eyes are not cruel, but puzzled, then wary. He mutters something under his breath. You've ruined the flow. People shift, uncomfortable, some even edging away from you. The message is silent but unmistakable. You don't belong here. Not even in prayer. Here's the quirky fact. Shrines and temples were everywhere in Edo. People prayed for safe childbirth, good harvests, protection from fire, even relief from toothaches. Religion here wasn't about Sunday sermons. It was woven into every breath of daily life. Historians are still debating whether this blend of Shinto and Buddhism created genuine faith or a system of social control. For you, it doesn't matter. You bow wrong, you clap wrong, you even breathe wrong. You shuffle away before the crowd fully turns on you. Outside, a group of children spot you and start chanting something in sing-song, mimicking your bow with exaggerated flails. Their laughter stings worse than their words. As you wander on, the irony digs in. Back home, religion is personal, private. Here it's public, ritualized and mandatory. Every step, every gesture is a test of belonging, and you fail every time. By dusk you find yourself near another shrine. This one smaller, quieter. A few peasants kneel in silence, their hands folded neatly. You hesitate, then sink to your knees, trying again. You bow slowly, carefully. For a moment it feels right. The hush of the shrine, the glow of lanterns, the scent of incense, it wraps around you, almost comforting. Then your stomach growls, loudly. The peasants glance at you, eyes narrowed, mouths tight. You've turned a sacred ritual into comedy. Again. You slink away, cheeks hot, chest aching. Edo has reminded you once more, even the gods here don't want you. And as the night falls, you whisper to yourself, if prayer can't save you, nothing will. You think the city has exhausted its arsenal of humiliation. You're wrong. The next trial is stranger, more personal, and somehow sharper. It begins with a group of peasants gossiping near a market stall. Their words tumble fast, but one phrase cuts through: marriage. You catch the tone, the giggles, the curious glances flicking your way. You laugh nervously, shaking your head, but it's too late. The crowd has already decided the foreigner should be matched. They talk among themselves. pointing, chuckling, measuring you with her eyes like your livestock. A young woman appears, her face half hidden behind her sleeve, cheeks flushed. She glances at you once, then looks away. The crowd roars with laughter. You're mortified. Here's the thing. Marriages in Edo weren't about romance. They were about alliances, survival, family honour. Matches were arranged by parents, neighbours, or professional go-betweens. Love wasn't required, obedience was. Historians are still debating whether arranged marriages kept society stable or suffocated individuality. For you, the answer is simple. You wouldn't last 5 minutes. The villagers push you closer to the girl, egging her on. You stammer in English, shaking your hands, bowing awkwardly. The girl hides behind her sleeve, mortified. Her father glares, muttering something sharp. The crowd laughs harder. You're not a candidate. You're a joke. The humiliation deepens when someone suggests loudly, too loudly, that maybe you should marry into their family. The laughter that follows isn't warm, it's sharp, mocking. They're not offering you a place. They're reminding you that you'll never have one. You bow clumsily, backing away, cheeks burning. The laughter follows you down the street like a curse. Here's the quirky fact. Edo marriages came with strict roles. Women were expected to manage households, men to provide stability. Divorce was possible, but rare. Families carried the weight of reputation like armour. And you? You have no family, no clan, no rice, no honour. You're less than nothing. By nightfall, the sting hasn't faded. You sit alone, hugging your knees, listening to the muffled sounds of families inside their homes. Laughter, chatter, comfort. And you realise the cruelest truth yet. It's not just that you can't survive Edo. It's that Edo refuses to imagine you as human enough to deserve survival. By now, your body is a wreck. But Edo isn't done grinding you down. You're lured into the city's infamous district, the pleasure quarters. The lanterns glow red, the streets lined with houses painted bright, music spilling from open doors. The air hums with laughter, with shamisen strings plucked in quick rhythms, with voices calling softly from behind paper screens. For a moment, it feels dreamlike. Warmth, colour, invitation. A courtesan steps into the light, her kimono embroidered with cranes and waves, her hair piled high with pins that glitter like stars. She looks at you, smiles faintly, then beckons. The crowd chuckles. You're the foreigner again, but this time they're curious how you'll bungle pleasure. You step forward, heart pounding, but the courtesan's smile is professional, not personal. She gestures for payment. You pat your pockets, empty as ever. Her smile vanishes. She says something sharp, turns her back. The laughter rises. You've been dismissed by someone whose entire livelihood depends on welcoming men. That's how low you've fallen. Here's the quirky fact. The pleasure quarters weren't just about sex. They were cultural hubs. Poetry, music, art, fashion all flourished there. Courtesans were celebrities, trained in wit, conversation and style. Historians are still debating whether the quarters empowered women or trapped them. But for you, they're another locked door. You wander deeper, humiliated, stomach twisting. You pass a rowdy house where men drink sake, shouting bawdy jokes. One spots you, grins and calls you over. You shake your head, backing away. He laughs, mimicking your awkward bow, and the table erupts with laughter. You hurry off, face burning. By the time you stagger out of the quarter, the lantern glow fading behind you, you feel emptier than ever. Even pleasure, the simplest human craving, is denied to you. And as you slump into the shadows, you realise Edo isn't just starving you of food, it's starving you of dignity, of connection, of even the faintest chance to belong. Section 23. The days blur, hunger gnaws, fever lingers, humiliation never ends. And now Edo sharpens its final blade, paranoia. It starts when you mutter to yourself in English, trying to hold your sanity together. I can't do this, you whisper. but the words carry. A man passing by stops, frowns, mutters something. Another joins him. Their eyes narrow. They glance around. You realize with dread they think you're plotting. Edo is a city of ears. The shogunate thrives on control and spies are everywhere. Servants, merchants, even priests. A careless word can be twisted into treason. Historians are still debating whether Tokugawa surveillance was exaggerated folklore or a genuine spy network. For you, it's real. You see suspicion in every eye, danger in every whisper. You try to stay silent, but it's too late. Word spreads. People look at you differently now, not just as a foreigner, but as a threat. Whispers follow you. Traitor, spy, danger. Children stop mocking and start avoiding. Merchants won't meet your eyes. By nightfall, you're alone in a way you've never been. Even the cruel laughter is gone. In its place, silence. A city that has collectively decided you're poison. You curl in the dirt, shaking, whispering to yourself to stay calm. But Edo doesn't let you calm. Edo waits, watching, ready for your final mistake. And as you close your eyes, the cruel truth wraps around you like chains. You never had a chance here. Not a day. Not an hour. Edo was always going to spit you out. The silence doesn't last. By dawn, Edo delivers its next cruelty, not through swords or fire, but through winter itself. The air bites your skin the moment you crawl from under the eaves. The sky is iron grey, the wind slicing straight through your ragged clothes. You wrap your arms tight around your chest, but it's useless. Every gust feels like it's peeling layers off you. The houses around you are made of wood and paper, beautiful but useless against the cold. You peek inside one as a family slides the door shut. Children huddle under futons, a kettle steams gently, a charcoal brazier glows faint red. For them, warmth is scarce but manageable. For you, with no home, no futon, no brazier, there's only the hard chill of dirt and stone. Your breath fogs in the air as you stumble down the street. Your bare feet are numb, toes stiff. You shiver so hard your teeth chatter. You try to stamp warmth into your legs, but the effort just drains what little strength you have left. Here's the fact that twists the knife. Edo winters weren't Siberia, but they were harsh enough. People layered kimono, burned charcoal in small braziers, and braved the cold together. Historians are still debating whether Edo's architecture made winters worse, or whether communal living softened the blow. For you, there's no debate. The cold is merciless. You find a bundle of straw discarded near a stable. You wrap it around yourself like a blanket, the stalk scratching your skin. It offers no real warmth, but the image is pitiful enough to make two passing merchants chuckle. One mimics your shivering, arms crossed, teeth chattering, while the other laughs. You shuffle away, shame heavier than frost. By afternoon, the cold gnaws into your bones, your fingers are stiff claws, your lips cracked. Hunger roars, but even stronger is exhaustion. You think about lying down just for a moment, but you know the truth. In this world, lying down in the cold is the same as never getting up. You stagger toward a shrine, hoping for mercy. The priest shakes his head before you even reach the steps. You're too foreign, too sick, too cursed. You're not worth the temple's fire. As night falls, the cold deepens. You curl under an awning, straw blanket clutched tight, teeth chattering loud enough to echo. Your vision blurs, your mind fogs. You dream of heavy quilts, of radiators, of steaming bowls of soup, comforts from a world centuries away. And when you wake, if you wake, you know you'll be weaker. Because in Edo, even winter is another executioner. By now your body is little more than bones wrapped in fever and frost. Your skin burns and freezes at once. Your stomach has given up protesting, and every step feels like walking through water. You stumble through Edo like a ghost, and the city treats you as one. Merchants no longer shout at you, they ignore you. Children no longer mock you, they avoid you. Even the dogs won't come near. You're fading and everyone can see it. The final blow comes quietly. You collapse near a bridge, your knees buckling, your body too weak to rise. People pass by. Some glance, some don't. No one stops. To them you're not a person, you're an omen, a warning, a mistake. The river flows below, grey and cold, carrying away the ash from fires, the waste from homes, the remnants of lives. You think of throwing yourself in just to end it faster, but you don't. Not out of hope, but out of exhaustion. Even dying takes strength you don't have. Here's the brutal truth. Edo Japan was built on community. Survival came from belonging, family, village, guild, clan. Alone, you're nothing, less than nothing. And you've been nothing since the moment you opened your eyes here. Historians are still debating whether Edo's rigid order created stability or suffocated individuality. For you, the debate is settled. Order has erased you. As the sun sets, you close your eyes, shivering, coughing, fading. The city hums around you, indifferent. You've survived longer than you thought possible, but not long enough to matter. Tomorrow will come, but you won't see it. And in your final flicker of thought, you whisper the truth. You never survived Edo. Edo survived you. So here you are, at the end of the night, the story complete. You've walked through fire, famine, fear, humiliation and cold. You've been mocked by peasants, dismissed by merchants, threatened by samurai, and forgotten by priests. You've learned that in Edo Japan, survival isn't about strength or luck, it's about belonging. And you never belonged. The city was never going to make room for you. Its rules were sharp as swords, its customs as fragile as paper, and its people as unyielding as stone. One misstep, whether with shoes, bows or words, and you were already erased. Even your body betrayed you. Hunger, fever, and frost tearing you down faster than any duel. And yet you walked the streets. You saw the lanterns glow, smelled the rice steam, heard the drums thunder. You glimpsed the beauty behind the cruelty, the art, the rituals, the resilience of a city that rebuilt itself after every fire. You didn't survive it, but you witnessed it. That's the paradox of Edo. It devours outsiders, but it dazzles even as it destroys. So now, as you pull the blanket tighter around yourself in your own bed, listening to the quiet hum of your world, remember this: survival isn't guaranteed. Not then, not now. It's built on community, on rules, on invisible threads that hold you where you belong. And when those threads snap, even the strongest crumble. Tonight let the story fade. Let the fire and frost drift into dreams. Let the lanterns dim, the swords rest, the drums quiet. Good night.